Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to another edition of Crimes of the Week International.
Authorities in the Indian state of Rajasthan say that they are investigating a devastating robbery this week after a family was robbed of a significant amount of cash and gold while attending a funeral. According to reports, the incident took place on March 10th when the family of Hanuman Jakad left their home in the city of Fatehpur to attend his funeral. Jakad, who was a local village chief and stone trader, was killed in a traffic accident a couple of days prior. When the family returned to the village where Jakad grew up, they discovered that their locked home had been broken into. Approximately 2 million rupees in cash had been stolen, along with 320 grams of gold. Taken together, the cash and values were worth roughly $47,400 US. The crime was understandably a significant financial blow to the family, who were already mourning the loss of their loved one. According to Jakad's son, the only reason they had that much money and valuables in their house at the time was because they were supposed to purchase a large order of marble and granite for the family business. Jakad had passed away before the transaction could be finalized. Making matters worse, police currently believe there is a good chance that whoever committed the robbery is known to the family, given that they chose to carry out the crime while they were away at Jakad's funeral. However, they say that they're still investigating other leads, citing 2 other unsolved robberies targeting cash and gold in the local area that same week. Luckily, sources allege that the robbery targeting Jakad's family was at least partially captured by CCTV camera. At the time of this recording, police say the investigation is ongoing.
Authorities in the South African province of KwaZulu-Natal say that they have arrested an alleged robber this week, who many are now jokingly referring to as the country's sleepiest criminal. According to reports, the incident began on the morning of March 14th, when a man in the town of Phoenix, just northwest of Durban, went to get into his Volkswagen, only to find an unknown man asleep in the passenger seat. Not knowing why the man was there, the vehicle owner contacted the private security company he had hired, who went to investigate while also alerting the police. When authorities arrived at the scene, they found the 35-year-old suspect still asleep inside the vehicle as the owner had described. The tools he had used to break into the car were allegedly just outside, and he was quickly arrested. At the time of this recording, police say that they are still trying to uncover the actual motive behind the bizarre incident. They believe that the suspect might have broken into the car with the intention of stealing it, but then given up after realizing he couldn't start it and becoming too tired. It's also been alleged that perhaps the thief simply decided to make himself comfortable after breaking in to steal items from the car, only to find nothing of value inside. Though the suspect's true intentions may never be known, it hasn't stopped many on social media from chiming in with their own jokes and theories. Several people jokingly asked if they could get some of the drugs that the suspect was on, while one Twitter user remarked, "Even criminals don't respect their jobs nowadays. We're doomed as a country." According to reports, the suspect, whose name has not been released, has now been charged with attempted theft of a motor vehicle and possession of car-breaking implements.
Authorities in the Argentine province of Misiones say that they have arrested an 18-year-old fugitive this week after he spent more than 2 months on the run following the alleged murder of another teenager. According to reports, 16-year-old Agustin Pizarruso was killed at around 8:30 a.m. on January 2nd as he walked down the street in the Buenos Aires suburb of Villa Diamante. After purchasing a bottle of cider at a local convenience store, he was headed home when he was approached by 2 other teenagers at a nearby intersection. An argument between the 3 quickly ensued, with one of the teens grabbing at the bottle in Augustin's hand. The 16-year-old tried to pull the bottle away from the attacker but was unsuccessful. Once it was in the other teen's hands, he began to use it to beat Augustin to death. When the attack was finished, the 2 suspects fled, leaving Augustin in the middle of the road. We know all of the details because the entire chilling crime was captured by a CCTV camera in the area, which police quickly used to identify the suspects. The one alleged to have carried out the attack was 18-year-old Ricardo Bravo, while the second suspect was identified as 19-year-old Alexis Villamayor. While Villamayor was quickly arrested the day after the murder, finding Bravo proved to be more of a challenge. He reportedly fled Buenos Aires almost immediately after the crime and managed to disappear. Bravo's time on the run finally came to an end after 70 days when he was tracked to a friend's house in the city of Posadas this week and placed under arrest. While reports do not mention what specific charges Bravo will be facing, it's safe to assume that murder will be at the top of that list. His accomplice, Villamayor, was previously charged with homicide by treachery and robbery in connection with the case. While it's unclear what exactly motivated the brutal crime, in previous news reports that we came across, Augustine's father alleged that the two suspects had been drinking and hanging out with his son prior to the murder. According to him, they had been at his house that morning and were expected to return at some point. However, it appears that the police have yet to confirm this account. At the time of this recording, the investigation continues.
Authorities in the Japanese city of Osaka announced that they had arrested a 22-year-old firefighter this week after he was accused of stealing money from a burning house last year. According to reports, the incident began last July 15th when a home in the city's Abeno ward caught on fire. Police said that sometime while the blaze was being extinguished, one of the firefighters at the scene, 22-year-old Fuyu Nagashima, came across an envelope in the residence inside a chest of drawers on the second floor. Inside the envelope was 200,000 yen in cash, equating to approximately $1,700 US. Authorities now allege that Nagashima pocketed the money during his time in the house. It seems that Nagashima might have actually gotten away with the alleged crime had he not decided to return to the residence a few months later. In December, he reportedly showed up asking to look around, telling the homeowner in his late 60s that he needed to conduct a safety inspection to make sure that everything was all right. Up until this point, the victim had reportedly believed that his money had simply been lost in the fire. But when the firefighter began to inspect a room on the second floor of his house where he allegedly found the money the first time, the man became suspicious and called the police. Following an investigation, Nagashima was arrested. According to police, following Nagashima's arrest, he admitted to taking the homeowner's money. He told them that he stole it in order to pay off gambling debts. At the time of this recording, authorities have yet to announce what charges Nagashima will be facing in connection with the crime.
Authorities in the Mexican state of Quintana Roo say that a 54-year-old British man is dead this week after he was shot by two gunmen in front of his teenage daughter. According to reports, the incident took place on March 12th when 54-year-old Chris Cleve was driving on a road near the popular tourist city of Playa del Carmen with his 14-year-old daughter. The pair were celebrating the teenager's birthday and were headed to a resort area within the city known as Playa Car. The reports differ on the exact details of the murder. Most sources we came across allege that it happened at around 10 a.m. as Chris came to a stop at an intersection. It was then that his red Audi sports car was approached by two men on a motorcycle who opened fire into the vehicle, hitting him multiple times. By the time emergency responders arrived at the scene, there was nothing that could be done for the 54-year-old as he was pronounced dead. His daughter was taken to the hospital suffering from minor injuries. Later that afternoon, police arrested the two suspects believed to be behind the brutal killing. At the current time, they've only been identified as 18-year-old Lennon N. and 30-year-old Jose N. News of Chris's death was immediately met with an outpouring of grief from his friends and family, who remembered him as a kind and generous person. According to reports, he had been living in Mexico since 2013 and worked as a prominent real estate agent selling rental property in the Playa del Carmen area. While the exact motive behind Chris's death remains a mystery, reports allege that he had previously been threatened by cartel members. However, these sources have not provided any further details about why Chris was receiving the threats. The 54-year-old is only the latest in a series of recent killings that have taken place in tourist areas of Mexico that were formerly thought to be safe. While some of these victims were believed to have been involved in illegal activities, several others have been tourists or innocent bystanders. At the time of this recording, the investigation in Chris's death continues.
Authorities in the English county of Kent say that they recently arrested a 21-year-old man following a high-speed chase after he was found to be in possession of a decent amount of marijuana, and his only driver's license was an imitation one that he had gotten from a theme park. According to reports, the incident began in the early morning hours of February 28th, when officers from London's Metropolitan Police attempted to pull over a 21-year-old driver in a grey Audi in the city's southeast. The man appeared to be driving dangerously, and allegedly had failed to properly stop at least one intersection. However, when police attempted to make the traffic stop, the driver did not slow down. Instead, he accelerated and began heading towards Kent. The ensuing car chase lasted for roughly 35 miles, reaching speeds of over 70 miles per hour and involving both Metropolitan and Kent police officers as well as a police helicopter. It finally came to an end when the 21-year-old suspect ran out of gas. When officers conducted a search of the suspect's car, they quickly realized why he had been so keen to escape. In addition to a decent quantity of marijuana, the only driver's license that the man had on him was an imitation one that he had gotten from Legoland. According to reports, the man had obtained the novelty license from the theme park's driving school attraction during a visit to Legoland in 2003, when he was around 2 years old. The 21-year-old was arrested at the scene on suspicion of dangerous driving, failing to stop, possession of a Class B drug, driving with no insurance, and driving with no license. In a post to social media, Kent police released images of the alleged drugs found on the suspect at the time of his arrest, as well as his Legoland license, saying, quote, "No, the Legoland driving license was not the reason for the driver's dangerous driving. The large amount of cannabis was." At the time of this recording, the suspect has been released on bail until his next court date on the 1st of September.
Authorities in the Netherlands say that they're investigating the death of a 21-year-old American student this week after she was stabbed to death by an alleged stalker during a terrifying early morning attack. The incident began at around 3:35 a.m. on March 6th when police in the city of Leeuwarden received a report about a fire at a building on Tweebucksmarkt. When firefighters put out the small blaze, they entered the residence where they found the body of 21-year-old Mika Oort. She had been stabbed to death. 2 other people, men ages 25 and 30, were also said to have been injured in the same attack. According to reports, Mika was originally from Winchester, Massachusetts. However, upon graduation, she moved to the Netherlands to study at the NHL Stenden University of Applied Sciences. Sources allege that she chose to make the move in part because her father is Dutch and many of her extended family members still live in the country. When police began an investigation into Mika's murder, they quickly zeroed in on a 27-year-old suspect. The man had allegedly dated Mika, but had recently begun to exhibit disturbing stalking behavior after Mika had cut off communication. According to Mika's sister, the man had been following her and had secretly put a GPS device on her bicycle, which was her primary mode of transportation. Less than 2 hours after identifying the 27-year-old as the primary suspect in Mika's murder, police were able to track him down in the German town of Leer and make an arrest. Apparently, the place where he was caught was a little over an hour's drive east of his home. At the time of this recording, the suspect has yet to be identified by name, and it's unclear if he is yet facing any charges in connection with the case. The investigation is ongoing.
Authorities in the Australian state of New South Wales say that at least 3 people are dead this week following a fire at a Sydney boarding house that police allege was deliberately set. According to reports, the incident began at around 1 a.m. on March 15th, when residents in the Sydney suburb of Newtown heard a loud explosion and saw flames erupt from a residence on the corner of Probert and Albemarle Streets. The building in question was a boarding house where at least 11 men between the ages of 40 and 80 years old were living at the time. As emergency service workers were called to the scene, 8 people either managed to escape or were rescued from the fire by neighbors. Several suffered significant injuries in the process, including one 80-year-old man who reportedly broke both of his ankles when he was forced to jump out of his second-story window to avoid the flames. By the time firefighters arrived at the scene and started to extinguish the blaze, it had totally engulfed the building, and there was no way for anyone to get inside. Sadly, it's believed that at least 3 people were trapped in the boarding house and succumbed to the flames. Though the fire has now been put out, at the time of this recording, the death toll remains an estimate. The structural damage to the boarding house was so bad that police say that they still have yet to be able to fully explore inside, and the body of at least one suspected victim has not been recovered. Investigators say they believe the fire was deliberately started using some sort of accelerant. According to reports, on the same day that the fire took place, a 45-year-old man named Richard Hodderin turned himself in to police in connection with the incident. At the current time, sources appear to contradict each other as to whether Hodderin was a current or former resident of the Newtown boarding house. However, what all reports seem to agree on is that he is now the person believed to have started the fire. Since his arrest, Hodderin has been charged with 3 counts of murder, as well as 1 count of destroying or damaging property by fire or explosives, more than $15,000. At the time of this recording, Hodderin remains in police custody, and an investigation into the incident continues. That brings us to the end of this edition of Crimes of the Week International. If you're a fan of the new series, don't forget to tell us in the comment section below. While you're there, make sure to subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this, making sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest videos. Thank you for watching.